you'll see we do at Mort is we bring art into this, because one of my favorite quotes is, some people never learn about art and poetry until they learn about grief and loss.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Glam Reaper podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Muldowney, aka the Glam Reaper herself. And on today's episode, I have a recurring guest. Well, recurring, repeating. She's back again. Um, Originally, she was part of a duo, and a lot of you would know the duo for sure. But today, she is here on her own, and so I would like to welcome Lauren, formerly of Deathwives, but now of Mort. I love the way I have to say that. It has to be very French. I don't know why.
It's a French word. It literally just means death.
Yeah.
It's also the name of my first cat that I got after I moved out of my house.
Oh no.
So it's a little honor to Mort.
Oh, I love that name. It's very cute.
It is. I guess I had a great great uncle named Mort too. So we'll just say it encompasses so much. But for me, it's death in a pretty way,
Yeah.
which is,
Lovely.
kind of what I've always done.
Very lovely name.
Yeah. Um, so like you mentioned, I had co-founded Deathwives about 6 years ago now.
Oh,
And last October, Aaron and I started new businesses outside of Deathwives. So Deathwives still exists, still offers the same education that we had before. It's now just in an evergreen format, so you can go on, buy the classes, and take them whenever you want.
nice.
Over at Mort, I truly have a collective now of different people who are educating and offering all kinds of services. It's not just death doula, end of life focused necessarily. It does focus on death and it focuses on grief, but then it focuses on like the life aspects of those too. Like we started a membership called Grief Cabaret because we wanted to show that you could have fun and joy in your grief too. You could do art projects. You could go dance outside and collect leaves and make art projects. And so it's really just a newer, funner way of doing what I've always done, educating,
Yeah.
but just different.
Yeah. It's definitely you guys should check out the website. I love the Mort. I wish I had a French accent. It's like sexy. I always used to say growing up, I did French in school, and I used to love the way the French would say Jennifer. Was the whole
Je m'appelle la reine.
I know. I just love it. Oh, it's just their accent is second to none. But anyway, we digress, or I digress. Um, but your website is really cool, and it's definitely. I feel like it's a lot of people will find their home there. Like as you said, the collective. Like there's a kind of a chic gothiness about it. Oh, look at the cat. Hello. And there you have a black cat. I mean, it's epic. It's
I know.
perfect.
I've got the bangs. I've got the black cat. It's just, I checked all the boxes.
You've got the dude in the coffin behind you. It's all good.
Yeah.
Also, I really want to have to start filling my walls with a little something. Um, but I found the website. So I joined, there's a pen pal thing. So you and I talked about, I love a handwritten letter, handwritten card, handwritten note, a package. I just think, I don't know, maybe it's because I live by myself and just, I live abroad for my family and stuff. I just, oh, the joy when I see like a non-bill come into my level. So I'm a big fan of writing a Christmas card and stuff. And that's something that you provide. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think there'd be more people who'd be interested.
Yeah. So, things aren't that great right now, and social media is kind of a nightmare, but that's been the main source of connection now for people. And we've started this group from all over the world now of people who are interested in death and grief and death doulaship. And so we created Death Pals, and it's just a free pen pal group. And so you sign up and then we email you back with your pen pal and you can start writing letters. As it grows, you might get up to 3 pen pals, but we really feel like it's a safe space for connection. And one of the things that I found over and over and over again every time I teach was, oh, here's my people. Like, it's not everyday folks that do what we do. I mean, I could stand on top of a roof and scream like, "I love death," and people would be like, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
But then you find your little group and you're like, "Oh, we can say all the things we wanna say." So that's what this is too. But bringing back that art too. A lot of what you'll see we do at Lemoore is we bring art into this because one of my favorite quotes is, "Some people never learn about art and poetry until they learn about grief and loss." And so it's kind of like these two things we have there. It's like that grief and joy, one in the hand, one in the other. But with art and with music and with words, we can move grief in such a powerful way. So why not create this space where we can use our hands, pen and paper, send stickers, make each other happy, share our grief with somebody who can understand it and hold that grief for you. Share the weird, wacky story of, oh, when this person was dying, this happened and this made me feel this way. There's just not a space to do that. And I don't like you, Mark Zuckerberg. Sorry. We're not going to use your space to have those conversations. So
Yeah.
come join us, Death Pals.
Well, I'm currently in a fight with both Google and Meta at the moment. Meta because they deleted one of my pages, my business page, or like removed me from it, or I did it. I'm not even sure how it happened, but basically I cannot access it. Anyway, I can't my main beef with them is I can't contact somebody in Meta to talk to. I cannot contact a human being to say, how do I resolve this? I may have done it, you may have done it. I don't know what happened, but it's now not in my repertoire anymore. It's my bloody business. So like give me access to my page. Otherwise it's just gonna sit there and die. And so like how can I not in this day and age connect to a human being? Like that's crazy. And then Google decided we're just having a beef over Google ads and stuff like that. And they just don't care. And it was this last like 2 weeks where I realized, wow, like these people just do not care. Like a small business, you could turn around and say, like, I don't know, like this coffee cup, right? It is a small business. It's growing. It's actually amazing. It's not actually coffee. It's that mushroom stuff. But I know if I turned to them and said, right, well, I'm going to take my business to Rise or to somewhere else, they probably would care because they're a growing business. Whereas Google, if you turn around and say, well, I'm going to use my advertising budget on Meta, they don't care about Jennifer Muldaney's advertising budget. They're like, up yours, back off. We don't care. It's so sad. And it's just so, I love this like different outlet. Now, I am full transparency. I only just signed up. So I haven't had the full on experience yet. And I'm just laughing because as you're talking, I'm like, I think I'm going to be the weird pen pal though who probably doesn't even talk about death. I'll be like, so today I did this, today I did that. I'll be just away with the fairies, like telling them about my day and how I nearly set the house on fire and how I walked into I don't know because I feel like just the random shit happens to me. But anyway, so we'll see how it goes. It'll be very interesting.
And that's perfect. I mean, that's also what we need is to be like, oh, there's other human beings out there who are also accidentally setting their kitchen on fire and not alone.
Acting. Like I love when I find somebody who is as accident prone as I am because I'm a disaster. I feel like my Instagram account, talking about Meta, I feel like my Instagram account has just become a fucking ode to what has Jen spilled today? How has she sliced her finger off? Or like, you know, I was only talking to a friend of mine on the phone the other day and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm just making dinner. And then halfway through the conversation, all you hear is, fuck. And he was like, what did you do? I said, oh, I just poured a whole tin of tomatoes on my white shorts. He was like, ow. Oh, Jen.
I
Anyway,
spilled my coffee on myself right at the very beginning of this conversation. So,
there you go. Well, we have a cover. So we're just seeing back up for a reason. Listen, no, well,
yeah. The connection part, I mean, especially in this work. So, Deathwives, I feel like got a lot of success during COVID.
yeah,
We were not an online platform at all. We were teaching classes in person in Denver.
yeah,
And then this happened. It opened up a whole new world because we were able to connect to people in a totally different way. But then I feel like that like reconnection of like, oh, we get to be humans with each other again
yeah.
still hasn't completely like gone back. Like, I feel like a lot of people are stuck in this digital and only online. And so that's another thing that we're really trying to do is, even if it's, a letter, it's real, it's tangible, it's a
Yeah.
place for us to connect. And like, that's what we're trying to do too. We're going to have more in-person retreats and workshops and as many live Zoom group meetups as we can possibly have,
Yeah.
because it's that connection and community aspect that is what people are hungry for. And when you don't have that, going through the dying process, going through grief, going through loss, it's almost impossible. And a lot of people, that's what they think is the norm now for them.
Yeah. It
It's an isolated area.
it is. It's so true. Like COVID did so much good and so much bad for the world. Like everything, honestly. Like the internet brings in the good, the bad, like anything bad, I feel like there's always a positive side, whether it's how it gathered people together, where or how you got stronger, or how your friendships changed. Like there's always a sort of a butterfly effect in terms of you coming out of a chrysalis or whatever. There's always, I feel, some positive that can be put to even the most negative thing. And I do think, yeah, it's fascinating, and it's so interesting to have lived through it. And I was only just saying this to somebody the other day that, like, I do think on my deathbed, I'll be like, wow, I lived through COVID in New York City. I mean, because it was just wild in New York specifically,
Oh,
I felt. And but it was so wonderful to have the ability to be connected to you guys, to my family back home, to people just all across America and Europe. And to still have that. Like we're doing this all online right now. But even when it comes to like me sitting down with a family to design a memorial from an event planner's point of view, I'm always talking about, let's go back to the five senses. Yes, we can live stream it, and that's become hugely popular. But even for those people who were live streaming it to, like, how can we not sensually, but like use our sensors to bring them
mm,
in to the memorial? And like going back to our five senses, like a lot of people discount smell as being a massive, like, what was their scent? Like, can we
mm.
use dad's perfume, or maybe a candle that might remind you of dad, or just, maybe cookies, or if it was, grandma's cookies, or, it's not always easy, but it's like bringing back that tactile, that sort of in person, that touch. Because at the end of the day, like at its core, as you said, like death care really is tactile. Like it's touch, it's the body has to be taken care of. The body just doesn't go boop and it's gone into outer space and it's disappeared. It's still, whether it's I mean, Elon Musk will probably try and have that happen, that it's just like boop, we just disappear, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. We I'm really going from like one to another there. I just realized Elon Musk, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Welcome to Jen's brain. Anyway, but I just, washing and caring for the body. Like I've talked to my friends about like what will happen when my parents pass back home in Ireland. And because obviously I'm over here, but obviously doing what I do, I'm probably going to be, Jen, you're in charge, make everything happen. Now I have their funeral plans as to what they want happen. But like for me, I'll definitely want to take care of my mom's body for sure. My dad probably not. I just feel like that's a bit weird for me. I wouldn't be comfortable, but I would want somebody I know and trust to take care of taking care of him. But for my mom, I feel like, oh, I'm nearly getting emotional thinking about it. But yeah, oh God, yeah, that's but it's such an important thing.
Taking care of our our loved ones is not an easy task. Yeah, death is a tangible thing, and I think the processing of it, I can't imagine not seeing my person after they die. I just cannot imagine, and it's
Yeah,
become the norm here in America. Direct cremation has just become the standard practice, unfortunately, for a lot of people. I think probably because of affordability, but we now have this huge gap in how we grieve. And when we have a huge gap in how we grieve, we have a huge gap in how we show up in the world, how we
yeah.
treat other people, how we treat ourselves. So, whenever I talk about this work, I always say, if you can do anything, view their body, touch them,
Mm.
spend time with them, because for two reasons. Our heart and our mind need to catch up with each other. It's one thing for someone to tell me my mom died. It's another thing for me to sit in a room with my mom's body and care for her and know, yes, my mom has died and I am here with her, and things feel different. I
Yeah.
can feel that my mom's spirit isn't here the same way that it was before. And so when we can have that kind of conversation with our own physical body while caring for our loved one's own physical body, it just opens up a space that all of our ancestors knew and understood. They always knew that that was such an important part of death and to honor death. I mean, you can go back to earliest man. I mean, they keep going further and further back, 30,000 years, 50,000 years, and they find these graves and they have these special areas and they find beautiful stones and herbs. And so if you think like the human experience has always been preparing and tending to our dead, and then in modern times that part of the experience has been taken away, and that sounds kind of extreme, like it's taken away, but most families don't understand that that's still their right. And so I feel like it is taken away because they're not educated and they don't understand. And when it's become a normal practice by authorities in the funeral realm of, yes, direct cremation. Oh, if you want to do a viewing, it's $450. If you want to do a longer viewing, it's 2000. When people don't have the money to be able to view their person, that's literally putting a wall between them and their grief with capitalism.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but that's really where we're at. And so kind of explaining that you can have a hybrid. You can still spend time with your person in your home or, in a facility, but that time you'll never be able to get back, and that it's just crucial that you know that you can have it 24 hours. You have 24 hours no matter what before a body has to be embalmed, refrigerated, or put in a dry ice or whatever.
Yeah.
And those 24 hours is really a period where people can start doing that processing, the heart and the brain catching up with each other, and also just experiencing like a different kind of love. When somebody dies, we always say, you don't just stop loving them, but your relationship with them changes because their physical body isn't here anymore. And I think that when you get the opportunity to care for their physical body after death, that's like step one to our relationship has changed now. And I'm blessing this body that loved me, that hugged me, that kissed me when I got sick, and sending you off. And now I get to love you in a new way.
Whew, I'm getting all the feels today. It's so interesting because I feel like we talk about similar topics on each episode, but sometimes some days it just evokes things. Yeah, it's there's because I do that 24 hours, as you said, is so important. And I think it's so important for people to be told the right information, right? That you have this 24 hours and you can never get this 24 hours back, this specific 24 hours. Now, I also know and defend as such if somebody chooses not to see their deceased person. And I'm like, that's okay too, because I do think that sometimes, coming from Ireland, I think maybe more so, there was a pressure to sort of be around the dead body and see the dead body. And I know for me, in my experience, there's been at least two times where I wish I hadn't. And yeah, because all I can see now is the person passed is there, and they just did not look like themselves. They were bloated. It was just awful. And it's now that sort of sits in a memory where I would much rather remember them laughing and as I knew them, right? So it is, but it's so important for me to get that choice, to have that right as to whether, and actually I talked about it in a different podcast where my mom, throwing her under the bus again, God love her, she made that decision for me for one of my relatives. And I wish she hadn't. And I knew it was coming from a good place. She wanted me to do certain, in academia, she wanted me to do well. I was in the middle of exams. But she took the choice away from me to make the decisions as to what to do. And it's very difficult to be a parent. I can't even imagine, and make those choices and have to make those decisions for your children and hope that you're making the right ones. But I think it's so important if to give people that opportunity. And it's sad that it does come down to sometimes a question of money. It is sad. But then on the other side, a funeral home, and I defend this too, a funeral home and anybody in the funeral death care space, it is a business. It's not like, unless it's a charity and and that's what you're choosing to be. Lights still have to go on, bills still have to get paid. You still have to hire staff to welcome the family. It's a very tricky, coming from the wedding space 16 years ago. I found that such a difficult. I was like, wow, I'm doing a similar thing for weddings and people are like so happy to pay me. And then when it comes to doing the exact same work for a funeral, they're like, what do you mean I have to pay you? I've already lost everything. It's such an interesting, and I feel like there's a lot of people in the death care space who don't get paid enough or don't get paid at all for their work,
Mhm.
and they're angels. And I hope there's reward for them somewhere.
I've always been trying to figure out that disconnect. Like when I was working as a funeral director, I would be like, okay, I know we're bringing in this much money a month. How come I'm getting paid peanuts? Guess what? Funeral directors are not rich people. Like I just
Ew.
want that to be a known fact. We
Yeah.
This is not the industry to join when you're wealthy. But then that's where I go, well, where's some of that money going to? And I do think America is a very corporate capitalist society. And so there are going to be spaces where you can charge more, and then other places are going to have to charge more to keep up with you. And so I think that we've seen that happen here in the States too. I'm not throwing SCI under the bus, but I am, because when they came into this picture, I mean, there's a statistic that they raised the prices in 1994 to now by almost 50% because the mom and pops had to keep up with them. And so
Oh,
when we look at like inflation and our incomes,
yeah.
we can't afford the same funerals that our grandparents could afford. And it's the same thing. Like, I can't afford a house that my parents could have bought easily. And
Mhm.
so we're having this like I don't call it a breaking point, but a point of like, how do we make this work for where we're at in society, for how we can serve? I I don't like I'm not going to be embalmed, but I want people to choose embalming if that means they can view their person,
Same.
and that's
Yeah.
you need to use a funeral home. When I've done home funerals for people who have been in car accidents, and so I've hired a funeral director to do restorative care without embalming and then still bring them home. And that's an option. And so people, it's like there's all these little avenues where funeral homes could still make money, but also support families so that they're not spending $10,000 and they're having a more intimate space. You can rent a casket at most funeral homes,
Yeah.
have them bring it to your house, and have your loved one in there. I mean, I'm from Southern California, and we used to do a lot of Catholic Mexican funerals in California, and they would just say, "Bring mom over, pick her up in a few days. We're having a party." And I loved that. I loved that they knew that they could do that and that they did, and that our job was to bring mom over in this casket, have this party, and then they would do the burial. And
Yes.
their healing, comparatively, when people had that time and the space to do the viewings, to do the celebrations their way, versus the direct cremation, come pick up the ashes or we ship them out. You can't even compare the two. And the thing is, all of us are going to go through this experience. All of us are going to have friends, family, lovers die. And so just to know that it doesn't have to be just, I can only afford a direct cremation,
Yeah.
I can have this, this, and this, is what I think will change. I'm not trying to, I used to say, I want to change death care. I want to change how we grieve. And how to change how we grieve, we have to change how we're doing death, how we're dying.
I actually think you hit the nail on the head with what you sort of said there. It was kind of in the middle, where it's actually just really, and you and I've talked about this and agreed on this, is education. It's actually like, instead of making decisions for people, which I have found to be a lot of funeral directors, even the good ones and the bad ones, They assume somebody wants this. They assume because you've walked into this bougie ass funeral home that you want X, Y, and Z. They assume that because you've walked into a predominantly Catholic funeral home that you want a Catholic, you want everything tick, tick, tick. They assume because you've walked into a contemporary funeral home that you want it to be a certain way. And actually, and it's one of the things I'm actually kind of trying to drill in on my celebrant course is really it's the act of listening. You've got two ears, one mouth, that famous old saying. It's about really and truly listening to what the people value and educating yourself. And there's so many free resources out there. And this podcast should be absolutely one of them, if I do say so myself. But it's just
Yeah.
about having conversations with people. It's about educating yourself. I couldn't believe how many funeral homes that I went into that A, didn't know what a celebrant was, or B, didn't know what aquamation and alkaline hydrolysis was, or composting. The celebrant thing is around for decades. Decades. Like, how do you not know what that is right now? I can kind of understand not knowing about the composting. Kind of. But just what? So the fact that you are and so this is where I think it sort of really comes down to is like the funeral directors, whether it's a local mom and pop funeral home that's owned by the people who work in it, or it's an SCI, or it's any of these other bigger funeral homes, more corporate funeral homes, or even back in Ireland. I mean, I write for a funeral magazine back in Ireland talking about the innovation here. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you should still stay up to speed as to what is happening in the death care space. This is your industry. So it's like educating people that you can sit in front of somebody. And I know, which is one of my bones with this country, is that each state is so different. I don't understand why it's called the United States. Don't understand it. But what I can see in Florida, sitting in front of if I'm a funeral director, sitting in front of somebody, know my state laws, right? So know what I can and can't do, because that's obviously important. But also know that I can offer somebody aquamation. I just might have to go to another state. Or I can offer somebody composting. I just might have to go to another state. Or I can offer somebody, as you said, home burial if they feel like they can't afford to pay for my staff for a visitation to happen in the funeral home, or whatever it might be. That just that you know what the options are and you're giving people what they want. And if you just want direct cremation, then that's fine too.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And even with direct cremation, you have the 24-hour window.
Yeah.
So you can still, during COVID, that was one thing I told every family that called me. Keep them at home. You don't have to send them here. Once we have them, you're not going to see them again. Like,
Yeah.
and that was the honest truth back then.
Yeah. Oof.
And so we facilitated home funerals. We brought dry ice and kind of a sheet of like, this is what you need to do. Call us if you need anything. And all we got was gratitude. Not a single person was like, that was gross. That was creepy. They got to spend time with their person. They got to wait for their brother to fly in so he could see dad one more
Important.
time.
Yeah.
An opportunity that would not be allowed if not. So even with direct cremation families, they still have that opportunity to be able to spend the time with their person, do some prayers, do some party, whatever, and then do the direct cremation. So you're not missing out. You're
Yeah.
not losing on that. But I want to go back to funeral directors. My love hate. So actually yesterday I was teaching a class called the School of Sacred Death, and it's a 12-week program, so it's very intensive, and we go over everything. I show videos of fire cremation and embalming, and really like this is what it is, and it opens people's eyes of like, oh, like I didn't know. I had a student who's taking this. She had never heard of aquamation or water cremation. And I'm like, you're signing up for this death class, and that she didn't know. And so the class yesterday was like the revolution of the death doulas. And one of the biggest parts is the education piece. And one of the biggest pushbacks is these conventional funeral directors. And it's because they are the professionals and these people now know more than them. That sucks. I mean, even with nurses, with doctors talking about palliative care options instead of going on to hospice. And then they think doctors will even go, well, palliative care is hospice. No, not in the States. It's not. It's something to help take care of you so you don't feel bad, and, mind, body, spirit kind of stuff. When you tell a funeral director, I want, to be cream, or I don't want to be embalmed. I want to be wrapped in a shroud. It would be easy for a funeral director to say, you can't do that, just because they've never done it and they don't know, because the practices are they haven't changed much, honestly, since the 60s of, okay, here's your contract, here's your packages, here's the casket choices, here's the embalming, we'll do the rosary, and then tomorrow we'll have the mass. It's very much, it hasn't changed. And so when I was a young funeral director, I think I was 23, working at SCI, kind of sad because I was like, I thought I was going to help these people in grief, and now I feel like a salesperson. And my boss just yelled at me because I didn't get enough commission this month, and that shouldn't I be working harder to make commission? No, I want to help people. I want to create these beautiful funerals. And so I saw the documentary, A Family Undertaking. When I saw that, I saw I saw these families coming together, building dad's casket, laying him out, having these beautiful services, completely fine with a unembalmed dead body in their house. And I'm watching this going, that's against the law. That can't be legal. And that's my profession. Education for people in the death zone too, because this was not part of the normal education that we're taught. It's changing quickly, and people are excited about that change, so they're learning about it, studying it, and then they go to the professionals, and if the professionals don't know, they're going to say absolutely not. One of the things that I'm seeing more and more is, we're trying to pass more laws to have water cremation available, to have natural organic reduction available. And it's the funeral directors that are saying, no, we don't want this. And I don't understand why. Because with water cremation, you're still getting the ashes back. You're still making money. With natural organic reduction, that's probably one of the more expensive options right now. You can, as a funeral home, offer all of these. So
Yep.
still serve your community in different ways, still make an income off of that. But for some reason, there's just this pushback of like, that's changed, that's different. People won't want it. I don't understand it. It's weird. I shared videos in Utah 2 weeks ago now. They were trying to pass the bill for natural organic reduction. It did not pass, but I shared the 3 videos of the 3 funeral directors and what they said. And my class was just like, what? They sound like they don't understand death care. They were talking about how, well, if people don't want cemeteries in their backyard, who's going to want soil? I'm just like, people, gardens, forests, we really do need soil in our
Yep.
country. It's one of the best things we can do for our environment. Planting trees, lots of soil, like we need this. And they were just like, no, absolutely not. And I just can't understand why they aren't embracing it, because people are asking for it. And
Yeah.
for some reason, they're like, not in our lane. And I'm like, this is only in your lane. Like, you have
Yeah.
to get the same permits for natural organic reduction and water cremation that you would for burial or fire cremation. So where is this that it's not yours and that we have to not accept this or ban it?
Yeah. It's different. That's all that it is. It's
Yeah.
like the current climate we have now. It's like anything that's different, no, we don't like, you know? I mean, one of the heckles I was saying about in one of the classes I got trying to talk to people about celebrant work, and one gentleman sort of said, "No, no, there's nothing wrong with the priests." Oh, okay. I didn't say
For
there's
like
not.
5% of people.
Well, I was like, part of me was like, well, that's not actually factual, first of all. But if you want to get into that conversation, that's a whole other conversation. But I was like, I never said there was anything wrong with priests. We are just different. We're in addition. We're not trying to like get rid of them. We're not atheists. We're just celebrants. We can have a priest, we can have a rabbi, we can have everybody. It's just if it's something different. And it's not everybody. And that's the thing, like you're a funeral director. I mean, it's the bad eggs out there that don't want to move, that are archaic, that aren't into innovation, and they give the whole industry, the whole profession a bad rep. And it's tragic to watch. And it's just so fascinating as well, though, like as you said, to like hear people's reasoning behind why they're saying no. It's like anyway, I mean, I feel like we could go so much further into that conversation, but let's say it, take a line under it there for a moment. Um well, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I know you and I could talk for hours, hours and hours, as we've written many times.
We have.
Yes. But maybe we'll get you on again when I've tried this pen pal thing a little bit more, because I'm very excited. But everyone should check out your website. Check out the courses, Deathwives courses for sure, but also your website. It's just beautiful at the moment. I just think it's just that real dark gothic. I love it. I'm quite jealous, to be honest. And yeah, check it out and become a pen pal. Maybe you'll even get me as your pen pal. I'm sorry if you do. Yeah, and you're doing a course. At least I know it's coming. I'm not sure, depending on when this goes live, but you're doing a course on intuitive grief, and death care and stuff. So with another season 5 podcaster. Um, Actually, one thing I've noticed that sort of seems to be a theme on this season is the things we actually started our conversation about, which is like the five senses, because we've had whole podcasts on sound and using music, and that we're talking about like touch very much in this one. We're talking about intuitiveness. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how season 5 is working out.
It's that embodiment, and we need it. I think too, with the current climate, and we're all like, woo, like shaky. It's what brings us back, those
Yeah,
5 senses, the
it is.
smell, the touch, the breathing exercises.
Yes.
So that actually is a class that I'll have March 21st, is called the Embodied Death Doula, because you cannot do this work and continue to do this work in this chaotic environment when you step into families that are toxic and don't feel well,
Yeah.
that you are taken care of, that you are a full vessel to be able to continue to serve. So we teach about active listening, which is, I always say when I do this, I was like, as a funeral director, I wish this would have been one of the courses that they taught us.
Yes.
Because a director, I mean, literally, that's what we're told. We are telling you what to do. That's what directors do, instead of shutting up and listening
Yeah.
and saying,
Yep.
it sounds like your mom really loved the color purple. What if we build upon that? Versus, oh, okay, well, we could put purple flowers on top of this prayer card that we'll hand out, that kind of thing. And yeah, so embodiment, I think, is what we're all trying to do right now in this
Yeah.
wild, crazy world.
Absolutely. I love that. What a great positive end to the episode. Thank you so much, Lauren from L'Amour, for joining us. And we hope to hear and talk to you soon.